What's up, artists? Today, we are tackling a masterclass in fine line shading, dotwork and stippling on this realistic portrait design. If you want to learn how to create smooth gradients using only dots, you need to stick around. Let's go.
All right, the design is ready for stenciling onto the fake skin. You can screenshot this image now if you want to use it for your own practice later.
So let's talk setup. You know you'll need a good rotary or pen machine, but the key is that it has a super stable hit for this kind of detail. Your stroke length should be standard, nothing crazy, typically 3.5 millimeters to 4 millimeters. The secret to stippling is power control, so I always suggest setting your voltage a bit lower, around 5.5 to 7 volts. Now, the biggest rule of thumb, machine speed always depends on your hand speed. You know, if you're moving your hand quickly, you might need to bump the voltage up slightly to keep those dots consistent. If you're slow and precise, keep the voltage lower. For needles, we're mostly using round liners like a 3RL or a 5RL because we need those tiny crisp dots. But the most critical thing, seriously, is your needle hang or depth. You only want a tiny bit of needle showing, about 1.5 to 2 millimeters. That small hang prevents the needle from digging too deep into the fake skin, which helps those dots stay perfectly separated.
Okay, before we start poking, let's quickly clear up the technique. You know, a lot of people use dotwork and stippling interchangeably, but there's a slight difference. Dotwork is the overall style, where the entire design uses dots for all elements. Stippling is the specific technique where you only use dots for shading. For this portrait, we're definitely focusing on stippling shading. Now, unlike whip shading or lining, there's absolutely no motion that looks like drawing a line here. The entire game is about density. This is the key rule you need to remember. Dark shadows mean dots placed super close together, almost touching. Light shadows mean dots that are spaced out, maybe a bit irregular. Our main goal is to fool the naked eye into seeing a smooth, soft gradient or fade, even though it's all just tiny dots. It's magic.
All right, let's finally get to tattooing. I'm actually starting right down here on the collar and shoulder area of the dress. Since this isn't the main focus, I'm using a very light gray wash. To make it, I just used one single drop of black ink and the rest is solution. And make sure you mix it really well. Now, pay super close attention to the machine and my hand. I'm using a short, quick back and forth movement, almost like a tight scribble. But here's the secret, guys. My voltage is intentionally very low, still rocking that 5.5 to 7 volts. That low power is what prevents those dots from merging into a harsh line. So even though my hand is moving fast, the machine is still dropping those nice separate points for perfect texture. We just want a subtle shadow here. This whole area acts like the foundation of the portrait, making the skin and the dark details of the face we do next look much sharper and more contrasted.
All right, moving up. Let's define the lower part of the face, because this transition is everything, you know? We need to focus on the shadow right under the jawline and down onto the neck, especially near the throat area. This is where we create that clean angle and shape for the neck to make the jaw really pop. To get this shadow deeper than the dress, I'm using a slightly darker mix this time, 3 drops of ink in the solution. Now, pay close attention to the stippling movement here. It's still a rapid, short back and forth motion, but you know what? We want the forward motion, the going in, to be the dominant push. That little controlled push helps you get better dot placement in this sensitive area. We're building a darker cluster of dots exactly where the chin crease is. Remember the rule, dots super close together, almost touching, that gives us the deepest shadow. Then, as we move away and down the neck, we start to gradually increase the spacing between those dots. That smooth fade from high density to low density is what makes the neck look round and three-dimensional instead of flat. And this is a key tip for dot work. Right now, we are just laying down our initial layer, or our first pass. We are not trying to reach the final darkness yet. The next layers are what will fully complete these deep shadows and finalize the texture. So take your time with this first pass.
Okay, now we're finally tackling the face itself, specifically the jawline and the chin. We defined that deep shadow underneath, so now we need to transition that shade smoothly up onto the cheek. Just a quick note on the ink setup. I actually have 4 different gray wash mixes ready for this whole portrait, but for this defined area, I'm definitely grabbing the 3-drop gray wash. It gives us the perfect mid-tone depth here. Now pay close attention to the hand motion because this is the real technical point. We're moving away from the tight back and forth. Here, we use a small semicircular movement, almost like a controlled throw or flick upwards. You start tight where the dots are dense, and as you curve your hand upwards and out, you gently lift the machine off the skin. You see, that upward throw is what naturally and automatically increases the distance between the dots, creating a perfect soft fade as it moves towards the lighter cheek area. It's all about a quick release of pressure on the upswing. This technique gives awesome shape to the lower part of the face, making the chin look defined without any harsh lines. And remember our big rule, we are still just doing our initial layer. The next layers are what will build these shadows completely. So no need to rush this first pass. Okay, now it's absolutely time to give this tattoo some serious life and definition. We're grabbing our 5-drop gray wash now. This is our darkest shadow before pure black. And we need this specific shade now so we can ensure the whole tattoo has coherence and consistency as we build the rest of the layers. And here's another key move. Because we need this area dark and dense, we're gonna bump the machine speed up slightly. Increase your voltage, maybe from 6.5 to 7.5 or 8 volts. This helps pack those dots faster and deeper. We are focusing on 2 main areas: the contour of the face, where the profile meets the background, and the hairline and hair mass. We're going back to the short, quick back and forth stippling technique. Just make sure you are hitting the outer edge of the face hard with high density, and then use that back and forth motion to fill in the dark areas of the hair. This contrast against the lighter skin we just did is what truly makes the portrait start to pop. Hey guys, just a super quick important thing before we keep going. Making these detailed tutorial videos takes a serious amount of time and effort, so your support is my fuel. If this video is helping you, please smash that like button and leave me a comment. And hey, if you see that hype option down below, make sure you hit that too. That's what gives me the energy to make even more and better videos for you in the future. And for my friends who haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out when the new videos drop. Thanks a ton, and let's get back to the work. Let's move specifically into the hair. Remember, we use that 5-drop wash and slightly higher voltage to establish the dark base mass of the hair. Now, for the first layer of the hair, we want to define the main flow and direction. Don't worry about individual strands yet. We are essentially just filling in the dark areas using that short, fast, back and forth stippling motion we talked about. The goal here is to get those dots packed tightly to create the look of shadow and volume. We are focusing on the deepest parts and the areas where the hair curves in on itself. The trick is consistency. Keep your dots dense in the shadows and leave the lighter areas completely untouched. This first layer is the foundation. It's all about getting the structure right before we add texture in the next passes. All right, let's move to the mouth. This part requires serious focus. We'll continue to use our 3-drop gray wash here, as we need soft but defined shadows. The trick for lips is volume. We are only placing dots in the darkest shadows, which are usually found along the outer edge, right under the bottom lip, and in the center crease where the lips meet. Use a very precise, slow stippling technique here. For the center crease, increase the density to almost solid, but for the rest of the volume, use that small flick motion again, starting tight at the edges and fading towards the center. You know, the biggest secret is to leave the highlights completely untouched. That means the brightest central part of the bottom lip and the little curve above the top lip, the Cupid's bow, should stay pure skin tone. Leaving those areas empty is what gives the lips that realistic, plump, three-dimensional look.
Let's start with the shadow above the top lip and under the nose. These areas are subtle. Use a very light and scattered stippling motion here. We don't want a dark line, you know? Next, the eyes and eyebrows. For the eyes, we are just defining the crease of the eyelid and adding a slight shadow under the lower lash line. Be super precise. Use very small, slow dot groupings here. For the first layer of the eyebrow, we're just establishing the base shape. Use a slightly higher density of the 3-drop wash to fill in the main body of the brow, following the direction of the hair. This is just our foundation. We'll add individual hair strands later.
Okay, we're back to the hair. I'm going to go super quick on this part, guys, because we already covered the technique. Remember that flick motion? We need it again for the front edge of the hair. Use that gentle, outgoing flick to create those soft, natural highlights and break up that hard line we made earlier. You know the rule. Light hand, low dot density. This keeps the edges looking natural and stops the hair from looking drawn on. Let's make this hair flow. Just a final note here. We are using the gray wash for this soft layer, but remember, the final deep darkness for the hair mask will be added later with pure, solid black ink in the last pass.
All right, my friends, this is the grand finale, the final stage of deepening the shadows and truly completing the face structure. This is the pass that takes the portrait from just being shaded to being fully alive and three-dimensional. Notice I'm speeding up the video here so we don't waste time, because this section must be done with absolute caution and precision. But make sure you are listening, because here is the final breakdown. The secret is the layering. I haven't just hit one area once. I've been working the entire time in a circular, selective layering process. Every time I return to the face, I choose the best ink tone based on the overall contrast of the image for that specific shadow. For example, for the deepest, most intense shadows like the inner corner of the eyes or the main shadow under the nose, I use my 5-drop wash to create maximum contrast. But for those soft transitions on the cheek or around the chin, I fall back to the 3-drop or even the 1-drop wash. Let's look at specific areas. Under the cheekbone and lip, we use that flick motion combined with a denser cluster of dots right at the contour line. Density is crucial here. Under the lip, add a small, dense line of dots with the 3-drop mix to completely separate the lower lip from the chin. The nose. We completely avoid harsh lines. The shadow that defines the nose is built up using the 3-drop wash on the sides, gradually increasing density toward the cheek. Only the underside of the tip gets the heavier 5-drop wash, and even then we use a soft stipple to avoid harsh lines. The eyes. This is where we create the hard edges. I switch to the 5-drop or even solid black just along the lash line and in the deepest inner corner. That small bit of dark, dense contrast instantly gives the eyes focus and intensity. We use very precise, slow dots here. There's absolutely no room for error. Always remember, we are not rushing this final pass. We are carefully building depth, layer by layer, and our focus is on making every transition as soft as possible, because a great Dotwork portrait is all about the quality of the fade. The magic is in the difference between those bright highlights we left untouched and these dense final shadows. Final takeaway, your job in this pass is to strengthen the core shadows under the lip, under the nose, and under the cheek. Build the shadow from the darkest point outwards toward the light.
Every dot you place now should be enhancing the overall dimension. We are finishing the story of the design we started.
And that finishes the portrait. Thanks for watching. Just a final note, to get the best results on your next piece, make sure you watch my previous realism tutorials. They are essential preparation for the next video coming soon, which will definitely take your professionalism up a notch. See you then.